Hi there, my name is Julizabeth Gonzalez, and I am a brown disabled woman. I have a rare eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa, and what that does basically is it causes blindness over time, which can lead to total blindness over time, eventually, in some severe cases. Today, my topic is feminist changemakers and adequate supports. And specifically, I want to talk to you about what that means in regard to feminist changemakers that are part of the disabled community and what supports we would need to be able to amplify our message as people that are part of the non-disabled community. And so not just as women, but as disabled women, we face different challenges and different accessibility needs. And a great example that I can think of is access to adequate healthcare and making healthcare accessible. And when I say making healthcare accessible, this means that right now there's not a lot of offices that are required to have different types of accessibility things. So like, for example, a weight machine that someone can roll onto if they, for example, are a wheelchair user. So that's just one example. Having access to free pads and tampons is probably another one, just because of the cost. And a lot of disabled people are not employed, at least in the US, but also globally. And I think also there is something called subminimum wage. So this is outside of healthcare access. There's something called subminimum wage in the United States. And basically subminimum wage is where the Department of Labor gives your employer a special certificate should you be on a list of observed disabilities, which mine is on that list, where they can pay you less than the minimum wage. So imagine the minimum wage is $7. You can get paid anywhere between $3 to $5. So how are people going to be able to live off of such a small amount of money? And when I think of all of just these two instances, but when I think of all the things that as a woman I would struggle with and that I know there are fierce advocates for in the disabled community that are women, I realized that the thing that we're missing is education on what disability can look like, who it can impact, and what that means for them if it is based on their gender, the different needs that they have that won't be met adequately. And when I think of, okay, what does education look like? This could be something as simple as learning about subminimum wage or learning about how inaccessible healthcare can be for the disabled community as a whole, but specifically for women who have a lot of different things that we have to go and do, right? We have to get pap smears. How can that be made more accessible? We have to get, if women become pregnant and they are disabled, there's also a higher risk of it becoming a severe or high risk pregnancy. And so how do we put adequate education in place so that people are aware of these things, specifically for women that are disabled? And how can we be part of the conversation? And in some spaces, leading that conversation to be ourselves change makers or amplifying voices of the female disabled community and making sure that we can be the best supporters. And I always think it goes back to education and it goes back to amplifying the voices of disabled women and listening, right? Because I think people will hear you sometimes and they'll kind of write it off because you're a woman and, maybe the bias is that you are strong enough to deal with this thing, or, if you're saying something is inaccessible, you're saying that you have different needs, but people just don't understand it. So I think it's all about education and giving out the relevant resources for people to be able to look at their own pace, to understand it, and to be able to share it with the broader community to be able to amplify the voices of disabled women. And that's it. I think my last message would be that kindness is free, and you don't have to be part of an impacted community or an underrepresented community to care about the things that impact those community. And when we all care about the betterment and progression of access, equality, and inclusion for everyone, it makes it a lot easier to get things done if we're all on the same journey together and not just doing it in silos. All right. Thank you for watching.